Hey there and welcome back to XCOM 2. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Legend Ironman walkthrough of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Last time we left off after completing another guerrilla ops mission and running into the Archon King, the third and last of the alien rulers. And once again we went all in our achievement hunt and went for the not throwing away my shot achievement, and that's something I think I quickly have to address here before we get started. Now, a lot of you have rightfully pointed out that the Overwatch All mod had a bit of an effect on our ability to take out the Archon King last episode, and of course you are correct. Without the mod, a ruler reaction would have triggered for every single soldier we put on Overwatch, so I totally understand if you feel like using the mod somewhat cheapened some of the success we had last episode. I'll be completely honest, I totally overlooked that aspect when I played the mission, otherwise I would have uninstalled it for the Archon King. Simply put, the alien rulers are, at least to my knowledge, the only case in the entire game where this mod actually affects gameplay mechanics. In 99% of cases, it's really just a quality of life improvement. So how do we proceed? Well, I have already left a few comments on the video explaining what I would have done differently had I not installed the mod, and it basically boils down to removing the Archon King's armor just like we did, but then breaking line of sight and letting the Lost go to work until we can take him out with a single Overwatch shot. Of course, there is no guarantee that would have worked out as smoothly as our actual approach, but worst case scenario, the Archon King does manage to flee, and we simply get to try again next time. That's the beauty of the alien rulers. If you allow them to escape, they will obviously show up again, but they will do so with the exact number of hit points they had when they got away. In hindsight, I am actually somewhat sad that I didn't think about showing you that side of their mechanics too. It definitely makes letting them get away a lot less punishing than one might initially think. So with all of that being said, I think it's a bit unreasonable to say that we made things significantly easier by using the Overwatch All mod. Yes, the final volley to unlock the achievement was made easier, but the rest of the fight would have played out pretty much the same with or without the mod. So we'll simply keep going from here. I just wanted to address this briefly as it is an issue close to my completionist heart. Now today we have big plans, the mission title already gives it away. Before we get to that, however, let's jump into the world map and start scanning a bit. Right, we've got a rumor for assorted loot that we are not going to take. The chances that this is something we can actually use are rather slim at this point in the game, so let's continue scanning at the intel site we already visited once prior to the last mission. After about a day of scanning, we then complete the Psionic Training for Red Fighter Flores, and of course we will keep going. We saw last episode what a well-equipped Psi operative can do, and since Esteban does not yet have Schism, let's give him that. After all, who's going to say no to guaranteed damage? A few seconds later then it's Matt Lewin's turn, who now unlocks Sustain, and with that extra bit of survivability for himself now unlocked, let's give him Stasis Shield to also increase that of his teammates. There might be the occasional situation where we want to protect an ally from any and all incoming damage. Now, unless anything else pops up, the Encrypted Codex Data Shadow Chamber project will be completed next, which will in turn trigger a cutscene and give us another main objective.
Central? Commander, excellent. My analysis of the fragmented Codex data is almost complete. The information I've uncovered so far outweighs the loss of the Shadow Chamber, as you'll see.
Is that an elder? Haven't seen one in at least a decade.
Yes, and I believe I now understand why. The Elders appear to be afflicted with an aggressive form of tissue degeneration. Rapid muscular atrophy, to a degree I had not even thought possible.
So they're dying. Sounds like our job just got a whole lot easier.
As with most things involving this adversary, it's never quite that simple. The Elders have been aggressively searching for a cure to their condition for centuries. Each time they encountered a new species, they procured what genetic information and material they required and moved on to the next world. Until now. I believe they found something in us. Something important enough to cause them to take root.
A cure?
Not that I can determine. Several key files were previously deleted as part of something called the Avatar Directive.
Avatar. We need those files.
Were I to gain access to a fully functioning codex, I might be able to recover them.
Or blow the entire ship to hell this time around.
I didn't say I needed the creature here, Bradford. I am confident I could access the unit remotely, provided your soldiers can get close enough to it in the field without destroying it first.
That we can arrange, Doctor.
New objective added.
And yes indeed, our next objective in the game's main storyline is to now skulljack a Codex, and thankfully the Shadow Chamber will tell us exactly whether or not a mission has one in store for us.
Commander, I've updated our current objectives based on the most recent findings.
So, this is actually a pretty straightforward objective. Depending on our luck with the skulljacking attempt, it shouldn't take too long to complete. In the meantime, let's assign our next research project.
I await your orders, Commander.
This time we are heading back to the regular research labs and we are pursuing the Archon King autopsy. I think it's no secret that we will receive something pretty useful from it.
I have always been particularly fascinated with this species, ever since the first time I spotted one during my travels. Although I had seen the biomechanical horrors deployed by the aliens during the initial invasion, these creatures appear to be something else entirely. Possessing a certain flair, not typically found amongst the aliens, I found this creature to be of great intelligence, masked by the incredible hold of the Elders.
So, this will now take 4 days to complete, and that means we only have one more thing left to do before we can start today's mission, and that would be to wait until we have removed the negative Fear of the Chosen trait from Sapphire West. Now that we have, she is good to go for the mission that we have planned, and we can also plug Dragonova into the infirmary next. As a Reaper, she will be kind of important in the upcoming missions, I think, so we definitely want to have her back in action as soon as we can. Now, for today's mission then, we are in fact attacking the Chosen Stronghold of the Warlock, so if things go according to plan, then we will be able to take out our second Chosen here today. 14 enemies await, at least in the initial facility. You might recall episode 37, where we already took out the Hunter. We'll have to clear a facility full of alien enemies first, before we can get to the Warlock himself, and things will definitely get a bit more interesting this time around, as the Warlock has the ability to teleport every time he takes damage, so we want to bring along a few toys to help out with that. So, this then our squad for today, 3 captains in Warhawk, Zucchini and Logan. Definitely far from the most high-level squad we can field at this point, but I think it will be well suited for this mission. Sapphire West, QT and Julian then round out the roster. QT and Julian are also bringing a good number of explosives with them, as the Warlock is vulnerable to that, while Zucchini and Warhawk will be tasked to deal with his teleporting ability. Zucchini has a Frost Bomb and Warhawk has the Frostbite ability on the Serpent Armor. Templar Logan then leads the squad, as the Warlock is vulnerable to Templar damage as well. And I think that's all the explaining we need to do here, so let's get this thing started.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
We're making another move against the Elder's pet Chosen. If we can take another one of them out, it'll knock a huge dent in the aliens' plans for our world. We've been through this before, so you know it won't be easy. Stay sharp, be ready for anything, and take that thing out. Okay, people. Stay alert and remember why you're here. That thing dies today. No matter what it takes.
Detecting a strong energy signature further ahead in the facility. There is no doubt in my mind that it is from the Chosen.
Then that's where we need to be.
Such bravery, such steadfast determination, such arrogance. To step foot in this sacred temple and dare strike down a child of the gods. Your hubris is your downfall.
So, here we are then, our 6-person squad has arrived, we have no concealment and no Reaper, and we also only have one door leading out of the room, so let's open that up and see what lies beyond. Alright, so far so good, no enemies in sight, and we have a door over to the right side here, as well as what looks to be another one right ahead of us, and since we are not on a timer, we can proceed slowly and carefully. So let's not move too far and then finish our first turn here by putting everyone on Overwatch.
This unit scanners are active.
You have come far, little humans, boldly pushing forth into the unknown. If you only knew the truth of this place, you would scurry back to the shadows where you were spawned.
And well, for the time being at least, let's use those shadows to our advantage. This time Templar Logan scouts ahead, but once again does not detect any enemies.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
And so we can safely pull up the rest of the squad, and we'll finish this turn just like we did the last one on Overwatch.
Guard duty it is.
Right, now in the background we have what sounds like turrets, and our reaction fire is also triggered.
Well, we weren't expecting a sneak in here today. Let's take these things out. Come on! Got admin here.
Alright, so that's 4 enemies in the next room, and we have 6 people on Overwatch, so it should hopefully be possible to kill at least 1 or 2.
Hard target, minimal damage. Eso es.
Efficiency is my specialty.
The Elders' will permeates all around us. Can you not feel it, humans? Their reach is eternal. Even now their hand closes upon you.
Alright, so a Lancer and a Purifier have already been eliminated. What's left are Priest and Shield Bearer, 2 enemies against 6 of ours. I think this should be doable in 1 turn. So let's open things up with a strike against the Shield Bearer. Yes, I know the armor will protect it, but Julian's hit chance with his gun is really not great. And we want Ranger Warhawk to melee attack the Priest, so we can't have Julian in the way. Thanks to the Ionic Axe, Warhawk is also guaranteed to set the priest on fire, so even if they happen to trigger sustain instead of dying outright, they will still succumb to the fire damage at the beginning of their next turn. Now at this point we are running into the slight problem that for some reason our squad can't target the shield bearer anymore. This may have to do with the fact that Julian is also giving them full cover from behind. Either way, that leaves us with no other option really but to simply take aim at the priest.
Ajustando miras.
And after a 57%er from Zucchini misses, let's go for the 71%er with QT. And that gives us the kill, which means at this point Templar Logan can go for the rend attack against the shield bearer.
That armor's tough.
Unfortunately though, he does not manage to deal enough damage, and so we somehow managed to not even kill 2 enemies on a full turn. And with Sapphire West here not having a clear shot either, we also won't be able to. So let's put her on Overwatch and get Logan out of the way,
Into position.
which then ends our turn and brings us to the shield bearers. Thankfully though, all they do is activate their shield, so we are not going to take any damage here.
For you are the true abominations, microbes that think themselves greater than the gods. You taint this place with your infestation.
Right, so 5 points of shielding, 4 points of armor and 1 hit point. I think it's time that we take care of that now, and Julian has a guaranteed hit even after moving a few steps away.
Almost time for a reload.
Right, that's shield and armor removed, and let's give the kill to Templar Logan. For the final confrontation with the Warlock, we definitely want to have him at max focus level.
Possible intel located. Hostile target down.
And conveniently enough, this gives us some loot, including an Advent datapad as well as some Chosen information. And that's not all we get from this kill. Logan also levels up to the rank of Major, and that's this room cleared, so we can now set our sights on the next one. That one has 2 entry points, one in the room that Logan, Warhawk and Julian currently occupy, and another one in the room with Zucchini, Sapphire West and QT. So let's split our squad into groups of 3. Hopefully this makes it a bit easier to flank any potential threats next door.
Is it not the Elders who are the universe. Yet here you stand, willing to die to retain your ignorance.
Alright, and after a bit more taunting from the Warlock, I think it's time. Let's open up the door here and see what lies beyond. And not entirely unsurprising, we have two turrets on top of these cell blocks that were already also present in the Hunter's Stronghold. At this point it also somewhat dawned on me that it may have been a bad idea to split our squad. Either way, luckily the group on this side has two soldiers with blue screen rounds, so let us first take a lightning hands shot with Sapphire West against turret number 1. Against the other turret, meanwhile, a pistol shot is not guaranteed to hit, so let's use the Dark Lance. Even without armor piercing, we will do enough damage here either way.
Armor still holding!
At this point then, we can quickly reload with QT and have her take out the turret. As you can see, even minimum damage will be enough. And same deal with Zucchini. After a reload the hit is guaranteed, and that would be both turrets taken out. Now, as you know, these turrets do not count towards the total enemy number on the map, so at least in this area we still have 10 more hostiles to go, which is why I think it's a good idea to not open up this door here just yet.
Physical exertion outweighed. Re-up and reload.
Pyramid is going now.
To think, I once considered myself a part of your race. You seem so small, so narrow of purpose. You do not deserve the Elder's attentions.
So, since we are already halfway into the room over on this side, I think it can't hurt to grab the high ground, and Sharpshooter West can get there easily with her grappling hook.
Advent forces sighted.
Okay, so looks like our next enemy part is another group of 4. This one, however, including both a heavy mech that has already gone on Overwatch as well as an Andromedon, so this could get interesting. Now, first things first, I think it's time to use one of QT's grenades. Unfortunately, she can't reach much further than this, but damaging and removing the cover of 2 units seems like a good start to me. Now, because of her salvo ability, this was not turn-ending, so let us now follow things up with a chain shot against the Andromedon. Anything but minimum damage will result in a kill.
By the numbers.
Alright, that's the Andromedon eliminated, at least the slightly more dangerous part of it. And considering that both Zucchini as well as Sapphire West have blue screen rounds equipped, taking out the shell should not be too difficult. Speaking of Sapphire West, she's up next and will now actually begin firing, but at the heavy mech. Don't worry though, the Andromedon is going to be her next target. This now also gets rid of the mech's Overwatch, and that means we can now follow things up with Face Off, which is actually guaranteed to hit 3 of the 4 enemies here.
X-ray neutralized.
Alright, and the critical hit against the trooper in full cover as the cherry on top. Lovely stuff, and it should make things easy for the rest of the way.
Beat him up, knock him down.
Now at this point we are obviously hoping that opening the door on the other side of the room does not reveal any further enemies, and thankfully, as you can see, it doesn't. And so Ranger Warhawk can easily run and gun himself into position, and we are actually going to rely on stock damage here to just take out the trooper. Templar Logan, meanwhile, secures the high ground for a pistol shot against the Lancer. He is unfortunately not quite in range to do this with Rend, which obviously would have been my preferred method. Still, the 84% connects, and that leaves only the Andromedon, who is now an easy target for Specialist Zucchini.
Según lo previsto.
And there we are, 8 enemies down, 6 more to go, at least in this first stage of the mission, and we didn't even need Julian to accomplish it, who can therefore now dash to end our turn.
Even now, the Elders lie through, they counsel mercy and plead with me to show compassion. I will let you die quickly today.
Well, I guess we'll see about that. For now at least, our way onwards is clear, as there is only one door out of this room. Everything else we have explored already, and before we keep doing so, let's regroup. Again, we can take all the time we need to complete this mission, so there is absolutely no need to blindly rush ahead.
So I can attack anything that passes by.
For only when you fall, XCOM, shall your race be saved. An entire world and all its peoples given to me, left to my tender mercies.
Alright, no more enemies are moving in, so let's do the moving ourselves. Admittedly, Ranger Warhawk does not really have the best look into the room here, but what we can clearly see already is a door on the left side as well as another one over on the right, and if I had to guess, I'd say we have enemies waiting for us behind both of them, and who knows, maybe we just need to be patient for them to come to us.
Sounds like a job for a turret.
Yet for any of us to survive, the Elders must not fail. Humanity delays their own salvation. You must submit now before the true enemy appears.
So, at this point, the Warlock's dialogue is getting a bit more interesting, if you will. Meanwhile, we have a choice to make, either go right or go left, and the floor in the chamber over on the left side here definitely already looks like the one leading towards the Ascension Chamber, and with that it's decided we are going right first. And despite still being blocked by a door, we can already see into the room a bit, and it looks like it does not have any further exits, so I guess we'll find out on the next turn whether or not we have enemies waiting for us inside.
How much longer must I endure your sacrilege? If it is peace you want, I shall gladly oblige. Come forward, XCOM, and yield to my embrace. I shall grant you merciful slumber.
Alright, and with that, the moment of truth has come. Let's open the door and see what we find. Right, it's chrysalids, once again 4 of them, so nothing too challenging, I think.
Just off target.
Hit the armor.
Okay, so after a reaction shot from Julian and a blade storm from Warhawk, we already have 2 of the 4 enemies injured, and let's take care of this quickly. After reloading, Julian can then soften up another target, the one furthest in the back. Sharpshooter Alyssa, meanwhile, can deliver 2 pistol shots, both against different targets. After all, she has reached the rank of Colonel already, and we want to give the kills to those who still need them. One such person is Templar Logan, who can now max out his focus with another rend kill. While Grenadier QT technically does not need any further experience points either, but we only brought 3 non-colonels and we have 4 enemies to kill, so somebody has to do the job. Moving on then, we can give kill number 3 to Ranger Warhawk with a 98% of the melee attack. And the 4th and final kill goes to Zucchini, and this one is guaranteed. So, 12 enemies down, not counting the turrets, that leaves us with only 2 more, and I think it's pretty safe to say that we'll find those guarding the Ascension Gate, and thanks to the Shadow Chamber, we also already know what they are, as we have not yet encountered a Muton or an Archon.
And still you defy us. We who have held this world together for years. Would that the Elders did not need your race. I would have ended its existence long ago.
So, at this point, I think it's clear where we need to go. Once again, the floor tiles already give away what's hiding behind these next doors, and even though we are expecting to only meet 2 enemies there, we are not going to open the doors just yet. Let's spend another turn getting ready, and then we breach on the next one.
Come get some.
Templar's hands. They can no longer afford patience. Soon, very soon, this world shall be mine.
Well, I suppose we'll have to see about that. For now, let's get ready to engage our final two enemies. And as expected, it's just two of them, a Muton and an Archon. Let's see if we can take better care of them than the two enemies we had to face at the beginning of the mission. In any case, we are starting things off by moving in with Julian.
Energy signature directly ahead. This appears to be an alien transport device of some kind. Understood. Looks like we found our way out of here.
And indeed, we've done it once before, but first let's kill ourselves a few more aliens. After the first 8 points of damage, we are then following it up with another volley from Grenadier QT, this one also guaranteed to hit. And that now leaves Specialist Zucchini to grab himself the kill. You may have also noticed in the bottom left corner that little plus sign next to Zucchini's name, indicating that he too has now earned himself a promotion. And perhaps we can even get one for Ranger Warhawk, who now takes out the Muton.
There you go.
And indeed, that's the promotion for our Ranger as well. And at this point, our objective is simple. We need to get everyone onto the Ascension Gate, a process that we combine with a few reloads and quickly skip to the end of.
I'm ready.
Pretty much all of our useful abilities have also already come off of cooldown. The fact that we only had to fight chrysalids and this pot of two enemies here definitely helped. And so I'd say we're ready. Let us now go and take out the Warlock.
Well done, Menace 1-5. See you on the other side. We're in the belly of the beast now, people. Proceed carefully. What is that? Some kind of stasis chamber for the Chosen? No wonder they keep coming back at us despite everything we throw at them.
Very good, little humans. Come to me. Like a moth to a flame will you be consumed by my brilliance.
Alright, so this chamber too, not entirely unfamiliar, although the layout inside is a little bit different from the Hunters. Ultimately, this thing right here, the Warlock sarcophagus, is what we want to destroy. But first, we'll have to take on the Warlock himself. And before we do that, we also want to take out all other hostiles in the area. There are always a few to start with, and those are not listed in the Shadow Chamber.
I've got eyes on an advent position.
Luckily, we quickly identify them as a Purifier as well as another Priest, and despite our early struggles in this mission, I don't think that should be too difficult to deal with. And so, let's send out Grenadier QT and target the Purifier first. Despite half cover, the hit here is guaranteed. Moving on, we can also scout ahead a little bit further with Alyssa. Don't worry, this will not trigger the Warlock just yet. It just helps us to make sure that these two are the only enemies currently with us in the chamber. And there we go, this now also officially gives us the promotion notification for Zucchini and leaves us only with the Priest. Let's see if Sapphire West can hit the 91%er. She can, and so up next we are simply dashing in with Ranger Warhawk, just in case the Priest somehow survives what comes next. This way we have the Bladestorm ability ready to go. And indeed, Templar Logan does technically get the kill, but the Priest uses his sustain ability, and that's exactly why we placed our Ranger right next to him. Logan meanwhile can use his bonus movement to already prepare for the next encounter, and so can Julian, who we move onto the high ground here, and with that our turn now comes to an end. The Priest then loses the sustain, and as a result Ranger Warhawk's Bladestorm immediately triggers. Unfortunately though, it misses.
That is not good. They're all over me. Evidence located. Hostile terminated.
Okay, so what exactly just happened? Seeing our Templar in a flankable position, the Priest decided to shoot at Logan, which is already somewhat unusual for a Priest as they normally prefer to use psionic abilities. Now thankfully, Logan possesses the Deflect ability, which at focus level 3 has a 50% chance to deflect incoming shots. What we just witnessed, however, was the reflectability that builds upon that, and which at focus level 3 has a 60% chance to reflect an incoming attack back at the attacker. And that's how the priest just died and how we obtained ourselves a bit more loot, which means the area is clear now, and as long as we do not cross a certain threshold, it will remain that way. Still, we are ending our turn on Overwatch just out of habit. As you can see though, the aliens do not even get a turn, indicating that none of them are present at the moment, and that means it is now up to us to initiate the next stage of the fight. Let's move in with Julian and trigger the Warlock.
Father really outdid himself, didn't he?
If only you knew the truth. The power in my hands. You would fall to your knees before me. Pity. I suppose we should begin then.
All right. We've faced these things before and we can do it again. No matter what happens today, only one side is leaving this place alive.
At last, the humans speak the truth. The elders will not be pleased. Are your own soldiers so demoralized that you must now rely on the efforts of a machine?
Well, personally, I wouldn't be taunting a machine that I was unable to hit from point-blank range, but that's just my opinion. And even if the shot had connected, it would have done at most 8 points of damage, so Julian would have been safe either way. Now, at this point, the Warlock has taken full cover behind a pillar that is sadly indestructible, and while we could now try to damage him to force him to teleport elsewhere, I don't think we're going to do that. After all, those teleports are highly unpredictable, and they could transport him into an even more unfortunate position for us. So instead, what we're doing here is we're moving close with Ranger Warhawk and then use the grappling hook off of the Serpent armor to get him to the high ground. That way, we now have height advantage and a flanking position, and that gets us the best possible odds to use Frostbite, which I am definitely hoping connects here at 83%, as that would allow us to save the Frost Bomb for later. Alright, the Warlock is frozen, and with that his incredibly annoying teleporting ability has been shut down for the rest of the turn. So at this point we can now let loose, for example with a plasma grenade from Grenadier QT,
Heads down!
keeping in mind that the Warlock really does not like explosions. Alright, and thanks to Biggest Booms we even get ourselves a critical, dealing a whole 13 points of damage, and we can now follow that up with a 93% chance to land the Rupture shot. If it connects, that's an automatic critical, and all subsequent attacks will deal an additional 3 points of damage.
You dare strike the elders, Chosen?
Alright, and down to 39 hit points, we are pretty much done already, because now it's Templar Logan's turn. And he's got his focus level maxed out and deals extra damage against the Warlock, damage that is now further boosted thanks to Rupture. And so he gets himself a smooth 19 points of damage off of a single rend attack, and well, we are not done just yet. After all, Zucchini is Logan's bondmate and can now use teamwork to give him another action. And even though chances are high that we get the kill if we simply use rend again, let's not leave anything up to chance. We do have lightning hands, we might as well use it.
You will pay for every iota of power you have stolen.
And after a further 12 points of damage, that now brings the Warlock down to 8 hit points, so let's finish what we started with our Templar.
X-ray neutralized. Doctor,
The device appears to be some sort of psionic capacitor, transferring tremendous amounts of psionic energy directly to the Chosen, restoring them.
no wonder these things don't die.
Right, so with the Warlock now defeated, he has returned to his sarcophagus, which has therefore now become vulnerable at 80 hit points. In the top right corner you can also see that the Warlock has already regenerated 1/3 of his hit points, so over the course of this and the next turn we want to take that sarcophagus out.
On the move!
And thankfully we haven't used too many of our actions yet, so we can do a good amount of damage on this turn, and let's get things started with a lightning hand shot from Sapphire West. That hits for maximum damage, which is absolutely lovely, and let's follow it up with a shot from the Darklands for at least 8 further points of damage. With Ranger Warhawk, meanwhile, we also still have actions left to spare, and let's begin with the free axe throw. Thankfully, hitting the sarcophagus is always guaranteed. And so, for his final action then, we just take the shot, and this should already get us close to the halfway point. And while we could now certainly employ a more elaborate action economy with Julian here, we're just going to take the shot with him too. At this point, I have little doubt that we'll be able to finish the job on the next turn.
Heading out.
Logan then moves into a slightly more central position, and because Zucchini can't hit the sarcophagus from here, he'll have to go on Overwatch, and that's the end of our turn.
Wouldn't want you to get bored while I clean up.
Okay, so looks like putting Zucchini on Overwatch wasn't the worst idea. Thanks to blue screen rounds, he instantly kills one of the Codex reinforcements here, while Julian now takes aim at the other one, which actually might make things a bit more difficult.
They're on the move.
So, instead of 1 full hit point Codex, we now have 2, one at 1 hit point and one at 2. I'll be honest, this is not going to change much. We should still be able to comfortably take out the sarcophagus on this turn, but it will require 1 extra action to take care of that Codex clone. For now though, the sarcophagus is our #1 priority, and we still have chain shot on QT, so let's use that to deal at least 18 points of damage. Alright, and that means we are now down to 15 HP remaining. With a bit of luck, enough for Sapphire West to finish the job. And indeed, another max damage shot from the Dark Claw here guarantees it. Alyssa's next shot with the Darklands here will destroy the sarcophagus for good.
I'm hoping that's a good thing.
Yes, the regeneration process has been interrupted. Readings on the capacitor indicate it has become highly unstable.
Then let's target that Chosen with everything we've got.
And indeed, on the next turn, the Warlock will appear once more with 2/3 of his hit points restored. That will then be our final encounter, and ideally we do not have any codexes to clear out alongside it. So let's finish these two off quickly, first with a slash attack from Ranger Warhawk. And the other one with a rend attack from Templar Logan. With his bonus move, we can then once again strategically relocate and finish our turn on Overwatch. After all, any damage we can do to the Warlock as he initially appears will only make our job easier.
Scanners are active.
Damn it! Find some cover!
Impossible! The Elders! They are silent! Demons! I will destroy you for this outrage!
So, no longer quite as cocky, the Warlock has returned, but unfortunately we did not get to fire any reaction shots. Still, because we destroyed the sarcophagus so quickly, he also only has 2/3 of his hit points remaining. And we also thankfully still have a Frost Bomb in Zucchini's inventory. So for the second time here, we won't have to worry about the Warlock teleporting. So let's begin then, and let's start things off with the Shredder Gun from QT. This does not count as an explosion, but it will remove some cover and armor. So that's full cover now turned into half, and 5 points of armor now turned into 2. And as we follow things up with a guaranteed hit here, we can get rid of those as well. Afterwards then, after completely unnecessarily activating Overdrive with Julian, we launch a Bombard, which does benefit from the Shell Shock weakness too, and thus hits for a grand total of 14 points of damage. And that brings us to Sharpshooter West, who can now negate the Warlock's half cover by getting herself onto the high ground, from where we will now take 2 pistol shots. And there we go. With the Warlock down to only 2 hit points, the question at this point is really only who's going to get the kill. And I would have loved to give it to Logan, but unfortunately he is actually out of range. But we're going to stick with the theme of killing Chosen with melee attacks, and that gives the honor to Ranger Warhawk.
One down, thousands to go. It wasn't easy, but we managed to pull it off, Commander. If only we could see the look on the Elders' faces.
And there we go, in a flawless mission the Chosen Warlock has officially been defeated. Sadly, we do not get an achievement for that. Nonetheless, it does bring us one big step closer towards full completion, because at this point we only have the Assassin left. And who knows, she might just follow in the Warlock's footsteps sooner rather than later. For the time being though, let's celebrate our victory here today and send our heroes back home.
20 years of peace and prosperity will not be undone by the reckless actions of a few misguided dissidents today. We stand with the Elders. Trust in their wisdom, and we shall overcome this crisis.
Despite their apparent protections from our encounters in the field, it would seem the Chosen are entirely vulnerable within the confines of their strongholds.
So here we are then with lots of tired soldiers, but also with 3 promotions to give out, something we rarely experience these days. And we begin with the man who killed the Warlock, Ranger Warhawk, who will now receive Untouchable. I've talked about this before, I think it's by far the better option at this point. And with Specialist Zucchini too, the choice is pretty easy. As you can see, we have built him up exclusively along the path of Combat Hacker, and we will continue to do so. Not to mention that Van Dyke has already shown us how good Guardian can occasionally be. With Templar Logan then, we once again have 3 skills to choose from. Arcwave here, essentially an area of effect upgrade to Rend, adding a 5-tile shockwave to every single Rend attack that Logan performs. Exchange then, pretty straightforward, it allows Logan to exchange places with one of his teammates, perhaps situationally useful, but in my opinion he's got enough mobility to not really need it. Quick Draw then, we already know from our sharpshooters. This makes it so that firing the pistol as the first action is no longer turn ending, but we're not firing it that much to begin with, and we do have Lightning Hands to serve that purpose too. So the choice is once again a rather easy one in my opinion here. Let's grab Arcwave. As you may have been able to see, it even travels through environmental objects, and conveniently enough the damage also scales with focus level. Now obviously, just like the Hunter, the Warlock also drops a unique weapon, a Disruptor Rifle, and despite the fact that we haven't really seen him use it much, it is a pretty good weapon, but I think we'll talk a bit more about that in the next episode.
We are stronger by far when working together. Your skill is unquestionable, Commander.
Well, and with those words of praise, I think we have reached a good point to make the cut for today. Another Chosen has been eliminated, and so it does indeed seem to me like the end of the series is getting closer. We do have a bit of work still left to do, of course, but the path towards full completion is getting shorter, and I'm looking forward to see what we can do in the next episode. For today then, let's make the cut. As always, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.